Hi, this is Cassie with Understanding Black Men and Women Beyond the Surface. Feel free to read the video description below and enjoy.
Okay, I'll go real quick.
Yeah.
So, oh, you want to go, Steven?
No, please.
Are you sure? It's because I'll definitely pass the mic.
No,
These are
you
some
you
tough, these are some tough topics, Cassie. Aside from the passion. So my name's Ayana Cameron. I went to school with Cassie. We graduated in the same class. And see, I'll start with the passion. So I'm passionate about psychology and mental health awareness. Um, I'm currently doing a master's in psychology, and that was my undergrad. So I'm in the Air Force as well, and my job doesn't tie completely to the mental health side of it, but that's something I would like to get involved in after I get out, which kind of leads into the business venture. I don't really have like a business venture per se, but one idea would be to start like a Christian-based psychology um, basically firm, or like basically set something up where people can get that specific type of help, but also tied back to their religion. So that's something that I'm looking into, how to like develop that. And then the progressive movement. So I don't think I really have a progressive movement per se, but within the field of psychology and mental health, I specifically do want to focus on women and children in the Black community, because I feel like just in general in our community, mental health is just not really talked about like it should be, and a lot of people don't know the resources that are there for them. So that's something that I would like to cultivate. Do you want me to pass the mic? I'll pass to Steven.
Hey, what's up? How you doing? Name's Stephen or Stefan. Goes by sometimes Stefan. So I'm allowed to like to talk a lot. So passions, fitness and leadership. Fitness. I feel like your fitness and the discipline it takes to be fit can lead to a lot of areas. So that's my passion, as well as leadership. So actually another member of this group, Nkosi, he went to the academy as well, good friend, and he brought up a good idea about trying to find young Black people that want to be a leadership or want to be successful, and submitting them to the academy. So currently right now I have two young airmen that we're putting in applications to go to the academy. But I think leadership, I think we're in a unique position being the Air Force, being officers, because we get access to a lot of young Black people with potential that really haven't had an opportunity or a chance. And I don't know about you, but I've been in for about 5 years, and I've had a lot of young Black youth approach me and be like, hey, you're an officer. Sometimes you're the first Black officer. How do I get there? What do I do? And I feel like for me, finding people that want to and then helping them get there, because I found out a lot of Black people aren't really put down the officer path. Like the only reason I'm an officer today is because my dad's like, hey, I was enlisted, go and be an officer. And I think a lot of these youth, they're just not put that path. So if we see someone and like, hey, here's what it takes, here's what you need to do, but going on a path. Business venture, none right now. I know I want to do 20 years. And I think passion's working with kids. So whether it's sports or just helping develop people. No, I'm not part of any progressive movements. And with that, I will pass it to Courtney.
Hey guys, so I'm Courtney Mose. I actually ran summer track with Cassie at a very young age. We went through how old were we when we started? We were young, so I've known her family for a while. Went to school, ran track. I came out, I'm an educator now, early education. Last year I taught kindergarten, but I'm moving back to second grade. So I'm excited about that because the dynamics of second graders and their minds, it's amazing, especially now with everything that's going on. I can equip them to be prepared to be better individuals and citizens of this world, and hope that their parents don't kind of like mess with them a little bit. But I'm passionate about kids. I'm passionate about fitness as well. Like I said, I ran with Kathy for a while, and before this pandemic happened, I started training for a competition, a swim competition, but that kind of got delayed. I don't really have many business ventures other than continuing with my kiddos. I love to, teach. I tutor outside of school. I enjoy just being around them and, especially mentoring some of my students who are of color, because I know I didn't have a teacher that looked like me when I was in elementary school. I didn't have one until I was probably in junior high. So I think it's really important to build that rapport with kiddos who, look like you. What else did Cassie ask for? I think that's it, really. I think that's all I kind of wanted to share. Oh, I model on the side as well, just to FYI, throw that out there. So just sprinkle that in there. But I'm going to pass the mic to Nkosi. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's Nkosi.
Yeah.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm Nkosi. I'm from New York City, born and raised. Nobody said where they was from, but I gotta put in there. I'm from New York. So yeah, I went to school. I went to the academy. Now I'm in the Air Force. Like I think like half the people in this chat in the Air Force. Damn, I forgot what we were supposed to say. All right, what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about education. I'm first in my family to go to college. And I just truly believe it's like a Malcolm X quote, education is your passport to a better future. And I just think the disparities between low socioeconomic communities and, the wealthier communities and education is just ridiculous. And especially coming from New York City, we're the largest public school system in the country and we're one of the worst. So I just think it's crazy how the largest city in the country brings in so much money, but our public school education is just terrible. So yeah, real passionate about education. I'm still trying to navigate exactly what I want to do, but one of my like long-term, lifetime goals is to do like what LeBron did, open up like a public school. And I want to go back to New York and open up like my own little version of the I Promise School. I follow them on Instagram. I follow them on all social media. I think it's amazing what they're doing. And the I Promise School, they took the bottom 25% of kids from Akron, Ohio, and they put them in the school system. And it just shows, and they're essentially proving that if you put enough time and effort and patience into these quote unquote, like we call like, these are the kids people essentially gave up on from such a young age. And it proves that if you put that time, effort, and care and just have a support system around them, they can do well. And they've just been breaking barriers and proving the naysayers wrong. So that's my long-term goal, to do that in New York City. My business ventures, I'm into real estate. Closed on my first home in February. I should have my second home under contract next month. And I hope to have a third one before this year is over. So still navigating, trying to figure it out. I got a lot of mentors helping me out. I'm mainly buying homes in low socioeconomic areas just because that's all I can afford right now. So I'm looking at Baltimore. Baltimore, there's so many properties that are so cheap, but there's, it's a risk. And also, the type of tenants you're going to get. Are they going to take care of the property? Are they going to be able to pay consistently? So I'm using that. I'm using, I got some extra income coming in right now. So I'm using that to put towards a property and, hopefully learn and start building that wealth for my family. What else we got here? Progressive movements. I don't think I'm part of any progressive movements right now. I think we all support the Black Lives Matter. Actually, there's a big march going on in DC this Saturday in memorial. Obviously, that's 4th of July, and it's in memorial of George Floyd. So I think that's gonna be epic. I'm excited for it. I've been to 2 protests out here already, and yeah. Other than that, that's what I got. Let's see. I'm gonna pass it to Abriana.
All right. So yeah, I'm Abriana. I think I met Cassie like way back in middle school. We happen to live in the same neighborhood, so I know her for a while. I would say I am definitely passionate about education in my work. Like I've taken so many classes to like further educate myself in what I do. Like, so I know if it's obvious, but like I do hair, skincare, all that good stuff. As for, what else did you ask for? The business ventures, right? I work for myself in LA. It's not easy trying to make it in LA, but I really didn't have much of a choice because so many places like would slam the door in my, like I've been told no, I can't work at so many places because I look like this. And I'm like, but we work in the salon world. That doesn't make sense to me. So I just started my own thing. It was like, just gotta make it work, do what I have to do. As for any progressive movements, I am not a part of any, but I will say that it's honestly a little surprising living in LA that, how should I put it, like a lot of classes that I take, or like for hair wise, even like school, they don't really teach anything. You think they would, because being 2020, they don't really teach anything about dealing with anybody's hair unless it's a white person. So, I mean, I'm not a part of the progressive movement, but I'm always like speaking out like, hey guys, why don't you teach us this? That's not right. What is this? Well, what about this? How do we do it that way? You know, can we get like, not even just like Black people, but ethnic people? Can we learn how to do something else? Why don't you guys teach us this kind of thing? So I'm always vocal about stuff like that. That's it. I guess I'll pass it over to Dakota.
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name is Dakota. Sorry I'm late. 29. I'm kind of a military brat, but I claim DC as home, Southeast DC predominantly. It's kind of where I understood what it meant to be a Black male in America and a Black kid in America. DC public schools are not the best. So I met Cassie on the Air Force track team at basically the World Military Games. So I'm prior Air Force. I did 7 years enlisted, and I got out. Currently, I'm a senior intel analyst working for BAE Systems at a 3-letter agency. So I've been doing that a couple years now, but I've been doing intel with a clearance for about 10 years. So something I'm passionate about, the reason I'm late is because I coach kids. I'm really passionate about youth sports. Youth sports are kind of what got me out of my shell. I've done sports my entire life. I coach my brother. He's 13 this year, so I've been coaching him for like the past 3 or 4 years in basketball. Primary passion is track. I was just coaching a kid today, so I've been coaching youth sports, or actually adult sports, for at least about 10 years now. 9 years right now. Progressive movements, Black Lives Matter at all times. They always have. I've gone to a couple marches here in DC. Definitely going to the march on Washington because I don't want my kids to say, where were you when that happened? I definitely encourage, if you can be there, then be there. For me personally, how I kind of give back is I just actually got 3 Black women hired to my company on my team doing the same things that I did. Over some other people. I mean, you can call it favoritism, you call it what you want. The game is rigged, the game isn't fair. So we play dice, we're gonna shoot dice, right? So I play their game and I try to do it better than them. I got 3 Black females, and that's how I feel I'm giving back. I've donated, I've marched. I feel like the best impact I personally can have is bringing more people that look like me into a place that has people that don't look like me. So that way, if 1 or 2 of them out of the 3 decide to stay in and become executive members of the intelligence community or executive members of the government civilian force, they can actually affect change. So that's how I feel like I'm giving back. Playing the game, vouching for my people as best that I can. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yesterday was their first day. Got to welcome them to a good environment. I think that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to bring people into my workforce. Is because I want people to feel comfortable where they work, even though they work with people that don't look like them. That's one of the things that we all face. Being in the military, my mom graduated from Tuskegee University, Black female engineer with twins in the early 90s. So struggle is something that my family is relatively familiar with, and then me being a Black male in a predominantly white career field, being intelligent. So trying to give people a place to feel comfortable. While also striving to get to where they want to get to. So that's how I give back. Like I said before, I'm passionate about youth sports and giving back to the community and the next generation, because what we're fighting for now won't really affect us. It's for the next generation. My mom used to say, each generation is supposed to improve upon the last, period. Regardless of what facet, regardless of what area of life it's in. If you're doing better, then you're doing better. One step is better than none. So the people that support Black Lives Matter, white, Black, Asian, Puerto Rican, I don't care. If you support, you support. I don't care if you like a post, if you put the little black box, I don't care, bro. We need everything that we can get. We're stronger in numbers, right? The time for division is over. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here. Cassie, sorry I'm late. But yeah,
You're
forward to
right.
the discussion.
Okay.
Pass the mic, Dakota.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who hasn't spoken yet? I don't know who to pass the mic to.
You got to pick a female.
Pick a female. Okay, Courtney.
She has spoken.
Okay. Who had raise your hand? Who had?
Who's it?
Anna, have you spoken? Oh, Lieutenant Rochester.
She has.
I'm so embarrassed. The only reason that my rank is on there is because the last time I used Zoom was for a promotion ceremony. I promise I'm not. I'm not like that.
LT.
Yeah.
Should I salute you? Should I salute you?
Yeah.
Salute?
No, I'm Lex. I met Cassie at the academy as well. My story of how I met her is way more embarrassing than all you cool athletes out there who know her, so we won't get into that. But I think I know I'm passionate about people. If I stay in the Air Force, it's going to be because I believe that I'm making a difference in the way people work, the way people interact, the way people communicate. I'm also in the intel career field. So I'm currently battling with how my progression doesn't exactly line up with how well I take care of people. It's
Right.
how good I brief, which sucks, but we'll figure that out when we get there. I don't really have any business ventures, aggressive movement, nothing crazy. I just think I'm working on developing how I can have the biggest impact in my community, my little world. Trying to focus on building skills within my team of how to have effective conversations, how to not take things personally, and how to have not just tough conversations about race, but like about anything that's going to make you a better leader, a better supervisor. So that's kind of where my heart is right now. I'm working on. Yeah, pretty much it. I will pass the mic to iPad. Don't know your name.
Okay, that's me. My bad. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay,
got you.
Okay. Cause yeah, I'm old school. I haven't even done this. Like my second time doing a Zoom meeting. So hey, can y'all hear me? Cassie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, Cassie, I'm late. But yeah, everyone. I'm from Houston, Texas. As far as I'll just go down the list here. As far as professional background, I'm 30 years old. I am a physician assistant. I work in orthopedic surgery here in Houston. I guess I know Cassie because I went to high school with her big brother, and yeah, we got some history together, middle school and high school. Let's see here. Passions, big sports guy, played college football, high school football, pretty much all sports throughout, as a kid. Goals, obviously, like I said, I work in orthopedics, so I'm just trying to, just build a good foundation in what I do, and just working on my craft every day to just kind of to maximize, my abilities in this field. Just kind of like a lot of you guys said, I don't see a lot of people that look like me in my profession, and it definitely would be nice to see more people. I think that's something that, over time, hopefully I can, like our guy said, I believe Nkosi, I believe. Am I saying?
Yeah, you said it right.
Our guy, I can't remember, Dakota. No, Dakota. Just kind of like he said, just kind of help bring more people into your field, and anything that I can do to kind of, just get more people that look like me into this field is going to be great. Business ventures, like I said, I'm just working right now. I've been doing it for about 6 years now, so in medicine, that's really, I'm still a baby, so there's a lot to learn, and each year, you just get a little bit more, experience under your belt. As far as the progressive movements, like you guys said, I mean, Black Lives Matter. I've definitely, I had a chance to go to the George Floyd Memorial here in Houston, and it's just it was definitely just a blessing just to see how many people showed out and came out. And I think this is a time right now. We're at a point. It's a critical point in time for us to let our voices be heard. I don't think that we can really just let this moment just kind of pass by. I think we definitely need to capitalize on it, because the thing about, and I've been saying this to a lot of people that I work with, I believe that the most important thing about this is just knowledge. I think that, and just education. I think, and this kind of ties into you too, Nkosi, because what I feel is that a lot of people are ignorant in the fact of they just don't have knowledge about Black history. I think if people knew more about Black history, they wouldn't think the way that they do. And we don't teach Black history in schools. That's the thing. Middle school, high school, we don't teach Black history. And so that's why people don't know. And so what you don't know, you grow up, but you know, I could really go really deep into that, but I feel to a degree that there's a reason, if you feel me, why they don't teach Black history. I think to a degree, I think they don't want us to know, because if we knew, like, knowledge is power. So, like I said, I think that, you know, we need to just kind of, I think, learn more as individuals, and the more we learn, we can teach others. And like I said, just keep this movement going. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is that everyone? I think that's everybody.
Crystal,
I don't think Crystal, yeah.
Hey, Crystal.
Hello. I shall go. So I'm Crystal Buckner. I think maybe one of the few that knows Cassie pre-Air Force. I'm 32, maybe the oldest in the room, in the Zoom room. I don't know as well. But Cassie and I met because I actually taught her. Wow, I feel old. But I taught her in high school as a youth director at the church, and she and I have just maintained a real special relationship ever since. I was youth director over the teens ministry for 10 years, just recently transitioned to being specifically over girls ministry, and I've been doing that for the last 3.5 to 4 years. That's really what I'm passionate about, is girls, particularly our girls, understanding their identity, whose they are, and who they are. And so that's something that I am constantly teaching and trying to encourage and mentor, just to instill that value and that, or remind our girls and young women of the value that they already have, not the value that they feel like they need to earn in some sort of in some sort of way, you know, through society's filter or through culture's filter. I am in Houston, still H-Town, born and raised, yes. Whoop. So still in the H. I work at a Christian radio station. Actually, it's basically 2 sister Christian radio stations here in the Houston area. One is Contemporary Christian Radio, 89.3 KSBJ. The other is Christian Hip Hop and Pop, 91.7 Engine. I am over our communications for both stations. So I guess you could say business venture wise. So on the side, I am working on putting together the resources for girls to run alongside the ministry and stuff that I do. But then also I am on air with Engine Radio on Sundays from 4 to 7, and looking to grow deeper into being a DJ. Specifically, I'm the only Black female right now in our set, so I'm really proud of that. And there's not a lot of Black females in Christian radio, period. So yeah, y'all shake it, yeah, because you know. And so I'm excited about being able to really speak a unique perspective and educate and keep it always in a godly light, but still share the importance of the message that needs to be there as a woman of color. So I guess progressive movements wise, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a part of anything specific, but something that I have really been passionate about, especially now during this time, is Christian radio. If any of you guys have tuned in, a lot of times, unless you're listening to like, I don't know, a Lecrae or Reach Records or hip hop or something like that, you are going to probably think the color of their skin is white, because most of them, the color of their skin is white. And so I've had the unique opportunity to make sure as a Christian radio station that, yes, obviously, all lives matter, sure, but right now we really need to say Black Lives Matter, and here's how we can do that. And so I've been blessed to be able to write and then publish what I have said. I've been blessed to be able to speak into our response and how we say it. I've been blessed to be able to educate to some of my counterparts who just don't know, not that they don't care, but just that they don't know. And so that's been something that's a blessing as well. I think that covers pretty much, yeah, I think that covers all of it. Passions, business, yeah, there you go. I don't know who, I think all the fellas have represented. Jamil.
Oh,
Jamil.
all right here. Best for last, I guess. Nah.
Did I say it right? Is it?
I'm gonna keep it short for y'all. Jamil Trimble from Cincinnati, Ohio. Also went to the academy. That's where I know Cozy and Cassie from a little bit. Graduated with Cozy. Passionate about track and field. It's actually got me in the position where I'm at right now. Still running. Had a chance to make the Olympic team next year. Still trying to make it next year, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Everything's going pretty well with that. Also passionate just really about all sports. I was actually recruited to the academy for football. Did that for about 1.5 years, 2 years. Was not for me whatsoever. So I'm focusing on the school and track after that. Also passionate about just giving back to the area where I come from. You know, it's coming back from Cincinnati, Ohio. I just want to show people that there's more than just Cincinnati, Ohio. So a lot of people kind of get stuck in that same mindset, especially after high school, and they think, oh, well, I kind of have to stay here. And I want to show them that there's more outside of Cincinnati. There's this whole world that you can really explore and look at. And you don't necessarily have to be an athlete to get there. A lot of people from my high school specifically like to think, oh, if I don't make it for football, if I don't make it for basketball, oh, I'm stuck. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's like, no, there are plenty of other avenues that you can get into that can get you about the situation that you're currently in right now. So I've been kind of talking to some old friends back then, kind of get some ideas rolling there. Business ventures, don't really have too many right now. I have one that I'm not ready to get fully into right now, but to go a little brief into, I like to start a clothing brand for next year, Black-owned clothing brand going into the Olympic year, to try to reach out to people who kind of had a similar path to me. A lot of things that I went through at the academy, a lot of family stuff that I went through, I know a lot of people had a similar path, and I would like to kind of reach out to them and let them know that they can make it through that they can take that, push through it, and learn from it, and it can come out making them stronger in the end. Progressive movements, not really any right there, but going back to what Ayana was talking about before, I think the biggest thing to tack on is mental health. I think in the Black community, mental health is not taken nearly as serious as it should be. And I think that needs to change. I think we've normalized just kind of pushing through it. Oh, you've been grateful for this, or your life is okay at this point. Like, you don't really need to think about it. It's like, no, like, mental health is really serious, and if you're not careful with it, it can affect you in more ways than people are willing to admit. And yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, now is that the last person? or is there anyone else?
I think we're good.
Okay, the first question is, what have you experienced in America through systematic or racism that caused you to look at other Black people in your community? Okay, put it in the chat room.
Can I go first? All right.
Yeah.
Everybody can hear me. Can everybody hear me clearly? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So being a military brat, I had the opportunity to go to the academy. And then I ended up going to Colorado State in Fort Collins, doing ROTC there. being a military brat, having coming from rules to no rules, I wasn't really prepared for it, so I went and enlisted. My sister, I have a twin sister. She's actually she's in pilot training right now down in Naval Air Station in Pensacola right now. So my mom was an officer, my sister was an officer. I'm the only enlisted one. But the reason I say that is because when I first joined, being black in Intel, LT, I'm sure you can attest, going to Intel school and being black is completely different. Like when you have an entire floor of people where nobody's black, it can throw you for a loop. So being in that environment in the military, we know there's a lot of jokes, right? And we try to find that line of, haha, that's funny, you're right, haha, that's disrespectful, right? And having the voice to say that. So I've heard quite a few people that had conversations around me, and I didn't have my voice at the time. Today, nah, it's dead. But 10 years ago, I didn't have my voice. So I used to hear people's experiences about where they were from and their interactions with people that look like me, whether that was in Spartanburg, South Carolina, whether that was San Antonio, Texas. And part of I know somebody that was white that went to an HBCU. I didn't go to an HBCU even though my mom went to Tuskegee, because in my mind, I grew up relatively suburban. Even though I spent a lot of time in DC, my opinion of black people and the HBCU was, you know what, I don't want to go there. Why? Because from my perspective, we enjoyed being loud, right? I believe that we embraced the stigmas that were placed upon us. And I personally didn't want to put myself in that type of environment. Now I feel as though that was a poor decision because I greatly respect HBCUs. Even though my mom went to one, I've spent considerable time near them, whether that was Howard or whether that was Hampton or whether that was Norfolk State. I spent a lot more time with people from there or people that graduated from an HBCU. So that changed in a couple of years from, I'd say 2011 to 2014, my mind shifted, right? I went from Texas to Hampton, Virginia, where there's 3 HBCUs. Or 2 HBCUs, right? So my mind changed from, we don't embrace the stigma, it's we are ourselves, unapologetically at HBCUs. And that's something that I had to change how I viewed my people and how proud I was just to be black, and how I appreciated those that looked like me, regardless of where they came from, regardless of the money they came from, regardless of the household they came from, the education standards that they came from. I realized that being proud of who you are is being proud of who you are, regardless of the external factors, the way you went, what name is on your college degree, where you went to school, what your job title is. None of those things really matter. It's how you feel about yourself and how I feel, or how I want to project myself to those around me. So that's how it's kind of my experience of what I was told and how my mental approach to my people changed. Now, I've always been pro-black, but I don't know if that was explained.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I have to tell you? Pass the mic. Do I have to pass?
No, I'm gonna leave it to whatever you guys want to do. If you want to pass the mic, that way everyone has to say something. Or
probably just jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the question is regarding like what have Black people in the community done to you? Is that, I just want to clarify to make sure that I'm answering.
Clear, because I did a town hall today, and I'm like the only, it's only 5 Black people in my whole unit, so I've been talking all day. So I probably didn't do the question justice. Mainly, I'm trying to get us to identify how we say how white people kind of judge us, and I think
how can we as a community affect each other?
Judge each other.
Yeah.
The racism. So it's like it's because systemic, systematic, or over racism that we've experienced, where we just take on what society has told us to think about each other.
Well, I know for me, growing up and especially going through the school dynamics, it was always, the Black boys that made fun of me. I was always thinner. We ran all our lives. So, I don't have you know, vivacious curves, I guess, that we were supposed to have. So I got teased for, you know, my body. I got teased for my complexion because we were out in the sun. So we was getting 2 to 3 shades darker every summer. You know, and you know, when I would run and get featured on like our news whatever platform in high school, you know, it would be the Black community or like, you know, my Black friends or acquaintances that would make jokes like, oh, like, are you from Kenya? You know, just ignorant stuff like that. So I think initially my disliking for myself, my color, being so slim was because of, you know, people who were of my community. And then it caused me to find myself finding comfort in, you know, my white friends because I was different. And, you know, I wish I was as dark as you, or, you know, I love your hair, or, you know, I love how you can do this and I can't. So I started to find value in being the exception or being different, I guess, per se, if that makes sense. And then finally it became a point, sad to say, most recently in the past couple years, I'm 27 now, and I wish I could have, you know, found that self-love earlier, but, you know, everybody's different, takes some time from others. But, you know, I really started to find value in my color and realize, you know, why are my white friends my white friends? Is it because of the exception? I am the exception. Is it because, you know, oh, I talk proper, which whatever that means, I heard that from both sides. So, you know, I didn't want to be the exception. No, I'm a Black female who is educated. I'm a Black female who has darker complexion, and I love my complexion. I love my skin. I'm a Black female who has natural hair, and I proudly wear my natural hair. I switch it up as often as I can, but I also love being me. So I say, you know, I feel like in the Black community, we joke and say things, but sometimes those things stick. I know a lot of times we make those jokes to make the situations lighter, but we don't know what everybody takes from that. I know I've carried some of the things that people have said thinking it was a joke for years. So I think it's important for us to realize that some things aren't a joking manner. I don't want to be deemed as, you know, I'm not as pretty because I don't have a fairer complexion or my hair is kinkier and curlier. I don't want to seem like I'm not educated or I'm educated too much. It's just, there's too many things that you can kind of like put in the pot and feeling like you're less than when you joke about things. I just think it's important. I think somebody mentioned it earlier about, you know, educating yourself on your history, educating yourself on who we are as a people, and uplift one another. Whenever somebody's joking, like, okay, but for real, you know you hot, like, you know you this, you know you that, you know, just to kind of reiterate who we are.
I feel like I can really relate to that. So growing up in, so I am Houston, born and raised, but I grew up in Clear Lake. So you can already, for those of you,
because I grew up in Pearland, so.
Okay. Oh, see, I'm right outside Pearland. That's where
I know.
But growing up in Clear Lake, it sounds just like it is. It's real clear. So all of the schools that I went to, especially high school, I think Black people might have been maybe 6% or something like, I mean, minuscule. Like if you went to Clear Brook, it was on and popping. If you went to Clear Lake, you was with all the white people. It's just the way that it was. And so, and I can remember even then, you know, similar to what you were saying, Courtney, like I was always, it was me and my 2 best friends. I have 2 best friends. And we were like the token Black people. Like everybody knew who we were. We didn't know who you were, but everybody knew who we were. I mean, so much so we would all 3 of us sing. I mean, and even in recent years, we've been asked to play parts just because we're 3 Black girls who can sing. So play this Supreme-like role or sing this Supreme-like song, you know, and it wasn't until recent years that I'm like, oh. But at the same time, so I also did not go to an HBCU. I went to Baylor University, which Baylor does have, it's become more diverse for sure. And there is a strong African population there. And I think that's when from my community, I felt like, oh snap, because I can remember sitting in our one of the classrooms, and it was just like a community forum or whatever. And I remember us all going down the line and being asked, do you prefer African American or Black? And this was led by some African students, and they were offended if you called yourself African American. Are y'all still there? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it looks like everybody's clear. Well, it looks like Crystal might have just rose up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear her perfectly. I was in tune.
Literally right until she said that.
With the computer and Zoom, man. Like, we can, if anyone wants, we can let her in if she gets back in. I mean, I have a lot to say if nobody hasn't.
I got a couple of things to say.
Okay, perfect.
So I guess for me, I want to look at it from two perspectives. It's like where I grew up in New York is very much so the hood. It's just a bunch of, you know, gang violence, not too many people doing well for themselves. I'm from Far Rockaway, Queens. It's probably like 40 minutes north of like Jamaica, Queens. That's where everybody know, like 50 Cent and all that. But yeah, I know growing up, I never understood, like, you know, I grew up with a single mom. I had like 0 men in my life. And my mom would always like push like good grades, get good grades. And then you get to school and then, you know, everybody making fun of you for getting good grades. And the people that was glorified was really just like the gang members. Like I legit remember like I wanted to aspire to be like a gang member because those were the people, they were the coolest people. You know, they got all the girls. Everybody respected them. So, and then, you know, if you were doing good in school, mind you, I did not even do that well in high school. And my high school was like trash. It's not hard to do well there. But, you know, I remember like getting bullied and made fun of because, you know, you try to do well in school. I remember doing assignments and not turning it in just to get a bad grade, just to fit the status quo. And I think that's the problem that goes on in these low socioeconomic areas. And, you know, and then doing well in school is associated with whiteness or being white. And I think it's holding us back as a community. Also, what I also want to touch on, which I was guilty of at one point, it sounds like a lot of people in the chat like went to like majority white schools or live in majority white areas. I was the opposite. It's like when I went to my PWI, it was like culture shock for me. I ain't never seen so many white people in my life. Like I did not know how to act. Like I was, if you would have knew me like when I was 18, like straight from New York City, I made I had to recover. I recovered myself and I had to learn the hard way. But with that being said, like my ex-girlfriend, she kind of grew up, she went to private school her whole life up until high school. And, you know, she's black, she's dark skinned too. And then, you know, she shared like a lot of experiences with me. And then she went, and then, you know, I would have been guilty of this. You know, she went to high school and she didn't really know the culture because she didn't grow up in it. Because she wasn't surrounded by it growing up. And oftentimes, like her peers would, you know, how you go up to people like, yeah, you're not black. And I was the same way. I was the same way for a very long time. So I think that's also a problem in our community. Like if you're not really in tune with the culture, like it's so like you get judged immediately and basically you get your blackness stolen from you. And I feel like my ex-girlfriend, she really couldn't fit in because she had all her white friends. And at the end of the day, she's not white. Like they still viewed her as black no matter how hard she tried to fit in. And then the people that look like her, they didn't really want to hang out with her because they associated her as white. So, you know, now she just has this like constant conflict and turmoil, internal turmoil that she deals with. And, you know, it's still affecting her to this day. I don't know if that's something you ever get over. And maybe some other people in the chat can touch on that. But that's just two things I want to highlight.
Yeah, I wanted to say with that, I just went out to like everyone knows that like Black people can like whatever music like, when you with different dialects in American community, it does not mean whether some educated or not. I feel like the reason why we started telling ourselves that, you know, this is what Black looks like because America framed it that way. like before someone said, like basically before the 1500s, the race didn't even exist, you know? So like, who's to say what we're supposed to act like? So that's one thing. And then two, even though I grew up in a all white, I only went to that school like for 2 years. I've been to so many different types of schools, and where I like most fit in was when I went to all black schools. That's where I learned that's where I remembered what I learned the most. So to me, I was too comfortable there. My parents had to take me out of a black school and put me in a private school. And then the Air Force Academy was, I didn't know it then, but I know now it's really like a culture shock for me, because I don't think I had been around that many white people without being able to like be a black go just choose to like speak a person in my class or whatever. So yeah, that's all I have to say, just piggybacking off of what he anyone else?
I think I froze. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna finish by saying, sorry, I don't know what happened. But what was difficult for me, basically, a long story, real short. Basically, what was difficult for me was going to Baylor, being around so many black people. I am light, and so it was, oh, you must be bougie. Oh, you must think you're this. Oh, you must be an AKA. Oh, you must be whatever because I'm lighter. To the point where I would try to tan and get I would go outside like most of us running from the sun. And I'm like, darken me up, a shade at least let my legs, match my arms, because I would, oh my gosh, have you even seen the sun or anything? Just comments like that hurt, because people automatically think, because I'm educated and because I've accomplished whatever, oh, and you're light skinned, so then you must think that you're above those who don't look like you. And then I started to say, I remember being in a forum where there was a whole debate on whether you could call yourself African American or black. And I mean, I'm like, what? But I remember in college, a whole debate, because you had people in your first generation from Africa saying you can't call yourself African American, you need to call yourself just American. And so that really changed my perspective. But praise God, since then I've been around, a lot of, just a lot of other people, and that didn't stick too hard. But that was tough, especially being lighter skinned and not, and I'm like, oh, well, you must be mixed. You must be this. I'm like, no, I'm just black and blacker. That's all there is to me. I'm just light. And so anyway, that was my experience, was kind of always being put in that category of you must think you're better than, which is definitely not the case.
I got a question. Do you think that stems from slavery? When they, the darker people were actually in the field and the lighter people were in the house?
Absolutely.
Yes. It was like, oh, you could pass the brown paper bag test. So and that's where, absolutely, that's where it came from. And I mean, yeah, true.
All right. And I feel like it's slavery, but people don't also realize that it's continued by the what social media puts out every day.
Yeah.
So social media has added to, or quote unquote white supremacy, whatever, has added to what slavery already started when it comes to that. All right. Anyone else on that same question?
I kind of have a question.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
When did you all find your confidence, but gain comfortability in your skin? I know Courtney said it was like a couple years ago. Like when did, not just when, but what changed? You know what I mean? Like, because there has to be a point to where we're like, you know what, I'm good. I am me, and I'm happy to be me, regardless of what you say. Was it somebody? Was it an event? Was it a situation that you found yourself in? Like, what was the catalyst or the spark that gave you that self understanding? You know, that I am me. I'm the, excuse my language. I'm the shit. Like I'm okay.
So I have an answer, but I'm gonna allow someone else if they're itching to answer right now.
For me personally, I think parenting is so important. So actually, from a story-wise, I grew up in a predominantly white area, one of the only Black people in all my classes all through college, and I think a lot of us relate and have the same story. But I just remember my parents growing up and always telling me, and I think they beat it into me because I don't know for some reason, because I've always been in that community, but my parents from a young age, they like, I never thought or saw myself as lesser. And I think, so my parents are from New Orleans. I grew up in Alaska, but my parents are from New Orleans. I think my dad grew up in poverty. My mom grew up middle class, upper middle class. And I think it's interesting, your parents' backgrounds, because I think that really affects you and how you think in your mindset. So I think my mom and dad had totally different mindsets. I feel like I'm very similar to my mom, and we're very driven, very motivated, want to be great. And it's interesting because I feel like throughout my relationship, she was always kind of trying to teach and help my dad because he didn't have that same mindset, because he didn't have the same education. I mean, he joined the military, he ended up getting his master's, but I feel like my mom was always a little bit ahead because of her education, and she just grew up and had things that he never had. But I think just my parents telling me, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what color you are, yes, you're going to face things, but you control your destiny, and no matter what anyone says. And for some reason, I took a hold on that, and I think I was blessed because I had a lot of people surrounding me, white and Black, that believed in me. And I think because I took that mindset and people saw it, they're like, it doesn't matter what happens, he's going to continue doing it. And I think people see that. So I think a lot of what you do and how you value yourself and portray it to others, because people are automatically going to have a perception of you, but how you view yourself. And when people see that you're not going to turn away, you can't be stopped, a lot of times it'll motivate and help people. But I guess to go all the way around, my parents instilled to me at a young age that I would be great, and I just take that and ran.
Yeah. To piggyback off of that, I'll say the greatest thing my parents ever gave me, my mom wrote a book about it, was a relationship with Christ. And this sounds so, I don't want to status quo, but what I'm trying to say is I've always loved this I was in. I did jokes that Courtney had, having darker skin, growing and back outside and all that kind of stuff. But I remember a time when I didn't, where I struggled with that. But I can say that the moment where I was, okay, I love who I am, I don't care what anybody has to say about it, honestly, is when I came to the unit that I'm currently in now, and I'm the only I'm the only Black officer in a unit with 5 people. And God has where surpassed even what my family members thought about me, you know, coworkers might think about me. I really had to get to a point where I had where I with God, and I'm just like no matter what comes at me, I'm gonna do what's on. I'm gonna keep doing what I want and what I've been called to do. Because without that, I mean, you can go in and out of it. Go in between, not feeling comfortable in your skin to feeling comfortable in your skin, depending on what environment you're in. Okay, anybody else want to answer that?
I'll share some. So I guess I kind of had two different parts of coming into that realization. I had it I had pretty good confidence coming into Air Force. Without going into too much detail, first high school I went to, I actually ended up getting kicked out of. And that high school was a primarily white high school. Won't go into details. Pretty much the people that I thought were my friends at that school, shocker, turned out not to be my friends. And the next high school I went to was a lot more diverse high school, but a lot of people that came to support me. I don't know what happened at the previous high school where all black people all came to my side and pretty much told me, like, whatever you need, we got you. I realized it's hard for you to switch schools midway through junior year in high school, looking at colleges, looking at what you're going to do for your life. So they kind of came to my side, and they kind of helped me realize that I need to embrace who I am, and that a lot of those people aren't going to see me as the way I see me, if that makes sense. And so that kind of gave me the confidence coming into college. But the person that kind of destroyed it a little bit, well, not destroyed it, but kind of took it away, I'm sure a couple people who ran track at Air Force knows. So I don't know how he was with you guys, but me and him did not have a good relationship whatsoever. Yeah. So me and him are fine now. We've had a few conversations to kind of talk about it. But when I first came in my freshman year, things were kind of weird for me coming from football. Wasn't in a good place mentally, nor was things going right in my personal life. But decided to come run track, talk to him a little bit, and the very first thing I kept noticing was he kept butchering my name. And I would tell him multiple times, like, okay, my name is Jamil. He'd be like, okay, my bad, Jamal. But all right, cool, whatever. It took him a little bit to get in. When I thought he finally had got it, was indoor conference. He was going through this whole point chart, and again, he was like, all right, so we need people to get these points in these different events. Jamal, you're gonna get this 60 hurdles, 200. Again, like 3-4 people corrected him. Said his name is Jamil. He's like, oh, okay, my fault. Kind of laughed it off. And then again, very end of the meeting. Any more questions? All right, cool. Jamal, you know what you got to do, right? And, like, I feel like he was kind of doing it intentionally. And at that point, I was like, all right, whatever. It's going to kind of brush it off. But it kind of, I thought it was just that. But looking back, especially after I graduated, it was so many things that he did that kind of just showed that he did not support me for me. And the big thing that kind of got me was after my sophomore year, I had a pretty good breakout season. Broke a few records, such as Mountain West records, and I was slowly starting to become, I wouldn't say the face, but I was starting to actually, like, be the face of Air Force track and field in a sense for a little brief moment. And I could tell that kind of bothered him, but I never knew why. And after that season, he decided to put up some murals of people in the hallway, people who were going to nationals who were qualified for the trials, and he put up a picture of me, but in that mural, I realized he airbrushed my tattoos out of the thing. And my tattoos were, I have a tattoo of my grandma or on the inside of my arm that shows her birthday and death day, and then I have a cross on the outside with a prayer hands underneath. And I looked at it and he airbrushed it out. Didn't tell me why, didn't tell me he was doing it. I just happened to go in and say, and just see him like why did you do this? And of course he tried to play down, try to say, oh, well, I didn't know. Well, look into it, see what I can do. A couple months go by, nothing's ever done about it. So I pretty much told him, went to his face, I said, look, I realize what you were trying to do. I just want you to know that I'm not okay with that. Like, if you feel the need to take my tattoos or a part of me out of this, just take me out of the mirror altogether. Because I don't feel like if you can't accept me for me, then I don't feel like I need to be a part of this at all. And if you don't like me for me, then I don't feel like I need to be on the team at all. I'll go do what I got to do elsewhere. And we kind of sit down, had a long talk about it. It was like an hour and a half talk. And eventually he ended up putting my tattoos back on, told me he was sorry, told me he was blind to what he was doing. He felt like what he was doing was right. And I had to kind of check him a little bit and said, no, like, you can't just do that, especially without talking to me about it. Like, if you had came and talked to me, okay, maybe we could have talked about it then, but you just kind of took it out and thought that it was going to be okay. And that wasn't the only issue. Like, he got mad at me for wearing earrings on track trips in regular gear. Actually made it a point to make it a rule that males could not wear earrings on trips, even in civilian clothing, which I thought was crazy to begin with. But yeah, he did a lot of things that kind of took that away from me to try to limit my blackness, because I realized me becoming the face of the program was not something that he was interested in if it was going to be a black person. And so, no, go ahead.
Oh, no, keep going. I thought you were done. Keep going.
No, I was going to say, just to wrap it up, like, after that sophomore year, after I kind of checked him on that, I grew my hair back out, because I cut it sophomore year because I thought, okay, maybe if I cut my hair, maybe I start looking more professional, that you'll start having a better relationship with me. didn't change anything. So after that, had that conversation, didn't try to hide my tattoos anymore, didn't cut my hair, or kept it in regs, obviously, but didn't cut it down short anymore. Kind of just embraced who I was, and eventually me and his relationship got better after that. But yeah, prior to that, it just kind of took some talking, because after that incident, I was like, this is not okay.
Yeah, I commend you, because I was there. I've heard of other Black men having that same issue. And I commend you even more because you accomplished what I've been trying to accomplish. I feel like we need to schedule to talk another time after this, because I have a whole lot of questions to ask you.
Okay,
I think
yeah. You know when.
The same stuff. I'll hit you up on Instagram.
Okay.
On your thank you for sharing that, because I can relate to to a lot of that. Man, anybody want to go next?
Can I go next?
Yes.
Okay, so like a lot of what he was saying was totally relatable. Like it was very relatable, because as you can see, like I love color, like I love purple eyebrows, I love colorful hair, I love all that. Like really, I do. And I guess I want to take it back a little bit and start by saying, like, at first, like I used to live in over there in Pearland, went to Pearland High School, right? You know, and I remember that I was not like not that I wasn't confident in myself, but like I didn't feel as comfortable being myself back then. Like, cause I was like big time, like, you know, into the emo scene. I love Suicide Girls. Like I was into all that stuff, right? But anytime I would kind of like mention any of that stuff or kind of talk about it, a lot of people, like other Black people, would pounce on that and be like, that's so weird, you're so weird, why would you be into that, are you trying to be white? All they would just go, and I'm like, no, I still think I'm Black. I like stuff like that. And you know, I would even get that at home, and it just got to the point where I eventually, because my parents were broken up at that time, I just called my mom and said, I think that was it like sophomore year at Pearland I'd left, right? I think like in the middle of sophomore year, I think. And I just called my mom and said, I want to move to LA. I don't want to deal with this here anymore. The people here, I don't think everybody in Houston is like that, but I just was like, a lot of people I have to deal with are just so closed-minded, and I don't feel like I could be myself here. And it was mostly from Black people, which really sucked. And I was like, I don't think that I'm something else. I'm not trying to be something else. These are just things that I enjoy and I like. So, you know, fast forward a few years, I left, went to LA, stayed there. And I decided, I would say like maybe like 3-4 years ago, I went back to visit because I still have friends there, went to visit my dad. And, you know, by that point, I, you know, was like, kind of like he was saying, I found my confidence. It was like, you know, I'm Black. I like colorful hair. I like colorful things. That's just me. I'm still Black. And so I decided to go back to Houston to visit my family, visit my dad because he was getting married. And I took my sister with me, who I will say, my sister's gay, right? And I was like, I really don't like going back to Houston because I know how people, like how I'm received there, and it's not very welcoming. And it really is from the Black community, which sucks. So like, I went in there, but I went in there with a positive mindset. I'm like, you know, maybe they'll treat me differently. Maybe it won't be the same. And unfortunately, you know, I went there. So I'm like this, my other sister's gay. My other sister, she's like accepted, right? And I remember we went there and we met like his whole wife's side of the family, and all of them like completely shunned, even her kids, they like refused to talk to me. They treated me differently. They treated my sister differently because she like likes girls. And my other sister, you know, the one who like, they view normal, they were like completely all over her, friendly with her. Like I thought it was freaking crazy that I went back before that, and that her children that he was married, they never said hi to me to the day they got married. They didn't even say hi. So I just was like, you know, I just was like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't think all of Houston is like that, but I just get tired of going back there looking like this. And like, I get weird looks. I get pamphlets. I get handed pamphlets all the time when I go there, like about Christ and saving yourself. And I'm like, I don't understand why you're giving me this, because I like to wear all Black. It doesn't mean anything. I get asked, do I practice am I a witch? I get asked all kinds of crazy things when I go to Houston. And I'm just like, it doesn't make me want to go back there or be there, which kind of sucks because like I do have a lot of friends there. And even now, you know, my daughter's always asking me, let's go back to Houston. And I'm like, yeah, no. because I love my daughter and I love my nephew, but they are like out there. They're like they are into some crazy stuff. They're out there. Like they love playing dress ups. Like she likes putting makeup on it. And even now, like, so like they love putting makeup on or whatever, but you know how it is sometimes in the Black community, right? So I remember we sent out a picture to the family to see, you know, my nephew, and they were like, oh, don't send us that picture if he has on makeup. That's for boys. That's not for boys. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with who he is. You're just playing with his cousin. And I'm just like, you know, at this point, I'm just like, why do they always have to do this? Why? You know, I know not everybody's like that, but it is just so frustrating dealing with that. And I do speak up for him and even for myself. I'm like, just like this doesn't mean I'm not Black. I still kind of like he was saying, I still get treated differently like that, like even work wise, kind of like I'm sorry, I forgot your name. He was saying something about not being accepted at work with his tattoos. I think it's like I was saying before, I think it's absurd that I work in the salon, but I get told when I'm standing next to a white girl who has the same shit, I can't, sorry, excuse me, I'm so sorry. But she's like, I can't work here because I look like this and we have an image we like. And I'm like, it's the salon. It is not like, you know, a professional workplace. So, you know, I was like, maybe I'll tone it down. Maybe that's too much. I tried taking that off. I still was told I can't work at certain places, and, you know, started to click. Okay, has nothing to do with the color. It's that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing that, Aubrey.
Mm-hmm.
Cassie, I just want to add real quick off of that. Like, it's interesting to me that, like, for some people, like Jamil was saying, it's like the adversity that kind of pushed him further into like, nah, this is who I am, and like, you know, activated that. But then I know a lot of the women, especially going off what Aubriana said, and Crystal earlier too, and actually Courtney too, it's just, I don't know if it's a women thing, but the criticism and that kind of rejection, even if it's not intentional from the Black community, and then especially from Black males, how that really significantly impacts. Because I know I had the same experience where I went to a mostly white school, and then, you know, I had a little stint in Florida where I was like cultured, and I think that was like my saving grace. And then went back to the academy where it was like mostly white. But it wasn't until after I graduated and went through one of the trainings. We do like I think it's like 2-month training, SOS, and they had what was called a Tuskegee flight, right? And so it was like a bunch of Black people. And for me, like being around Black people that were all different, to Aubriana's point, you know, but that accepted me for who I was, and especially the Black men in that group, like went out of their way to like uplift the women in the group. And that for me was, that was life-changing for me. So I think it's just important for us to like catch that point, is that we get that from white people all the time. Like I don't know who was saying it, but like, she doesn't fit into this group, but she also doesn't fit, I think it was Cozy, right, with his ex-girlfriend. Like, you don't have it on both groups. So when it comes from the Black community, I think that hurt is deeper. So it's something that we have to be cognizant of for sure.
I have a question. It's kind of like so we say use your voice to call out white people when we hear it. When do we say we call out each other for doing it? Bro, they're Black too. Aubriana likes to change the color of her hair. She's Black too, bro. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, when do we? I think that's for me, that's one of the things I struggle with, because I can't speak for anybody else. I've been on that side. When you make fun of me, I've been where Courtney's been, being the only Black kid in my county running the 800, right, in winning districts, right? I know what that looks like. I know how that comes across. And for people to say, "Oh, you must be Kenyan," well, I gotta be Kenyan, bro. My mom's from Chicago, like that. Maybe, you know what I mean? You play it out. Maybe I am. Yeah, I am. Right. So you fall into it. But then on the flip side, as soon as somebody comes back at me, "Oh, you must be Kenyan." Well, you're fat. So who are we talking about? You know what I mean? So that environment that we're kind of raised in, that don't let nobody talk about you, you get it back. But then as we get older, when do we, because we're at a point now, in my opinion, in America, right? So whereas everybody's saying, use your voice, call out racism when you see it. Racism isn't just white against black. We're racist against it ourselves. So when do we say, don't just call it out for them, call it out for each other? We think it's not about you. Part of it is your thoughts, but I was raised, it's not just your thoughts, because your thoughts stay to yourself. It's the words that come out of your mouth that have some of the most impact next to your actions, right? So if you think it, I can think, damn, I'll be honest, weird with this purple hair. It's different than when you say it, right? And then somebody should be like, so what? You know what I mean? When do we stick up for each other?
Right.
Not, oh dang, I don't know what that is, right? Because part of it is holding them accountable. I personally believe we got to hold ourselves more accountable, because regardless of what they do, we control ourselves. We have to gain control of our communities for ourselves, regardless of what they do, regardless of what they give, or the concessions they make, or how they try to appease us in this moment, or the near future, or the long-term future. What do we do to improve ourselves? And part of it is holding each other accountable and calling out each other's BS when we see it, right? Because we can say, I feel like I'm one of the guys when I'm with my brothers, absolutely. But if my brothers are talking about a black female, I have an obligation to say something.
Yes.
Not because I'm with the fellas, but because I have the obligation as a black male to appreciate the black woman. And if a black female is with her group of friends, she's like, ooh, that black dude, N-word, right? Or whatever, is ugly. No, he's not ugly. He's just not attracted to you, right? He got a stomach. So what? We don't know what the other person has gone through. So I feel like we have to hold each other accountable as much as, if not more, because we can impact our own community. We can't impact theirs. And I personally believe we have to do it ourselves.
I 100% agree. Before we continue, is everyone okay with going, like, we were supposed to end at 7, but we started late. Is everyone okay with ending at 7:30 Pacific?
7:30. Are you on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say it's.
I'm like, it's 9
I'm in
o'clock.
Virginia.
I'm like, it's 10. Like,
About 9:30.
Well, what happened?
These time zones. Love it.
Okay.
I'm here as much as people want to talk.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I have a question, unless someone else has another answer to what we're like. I have a really good question that I want to ask, but
No, go ahead. I feel like Dakota kind of answered his own question, low key.
yes.
We all thumbs up.
Low key.
My opinion before I get the question, because I don't want people to be confused as to where my question is coming from. I'm sorry.
Oh wait, say that. You said you wanted to ask a question?
No. Courtney has said that I answered my own question. One of the weirdest things about asking people's questions, people don't know where the question is coming from. So I tend to ask the question and then explain where I'm coming from, and then give people the opportunity to answer it. So they're not like, well, I wonder why he's asking. Okay, that's his viewpoint. Okay, now I can share mine.
I mean, you answered it perfectly, because everything you said I agree with. I've been telling people, don't be peace seekers, be peacemakers. So what you said is how you can be a peacemaker within the Black community. And then what Jamil was saying about what happened with I'm not gonna say his name, but with the coach is an example of him being a peacemaker, because a peace seeker will sit in silence and let it happen. And you're gonna say, okay, to keep the environment peaceful, I'm gonna suffer in silence, or I'm gonna let that other person suffer in silence. But if you're a peacemaker, you're like, I'm gonna make an environment to where everybody can be at peace. And so, so that would be my answer to your question. The next question that I wanted to ask is, what do you, okay, for the Black females, what do you feel like you want more from your Black men? And for the Black men, what do you feel like you want from the Black women in order to feel like uplifted by the opposite sex? And we'll say, whether it be acquaintance level, friendship level, or even dating level. Yeah, that's the question, if anyone wants to answer first.
I can kind of say, like, I think for me, probably not so much probably not so much friendships. I'm thinking as I'm processing and saying, but relationships. I think I know I've only dated Black guys. And I can remember feeling as though I almost had to not stifle what I was doing in my life, but it was almost like I was a threat. I just put it like that. I've been a threat. I've always been seen as this threat. I've been told that, oh, well, you're unapproachable. I'm like, well, why? And it's like, oh, well, because you're successful, because you own your own home. I've had my own home for like 8 years, because because you're gainfully employed, and I'm like, but those are all good things. Like, why would you, you know what I mean? Like, why would you, that means that, but there's this, and it could be outside of the Black community as well. But like I said, I've dated Black guys. And so it was this thought that I'm too much just because I'm, confident, and because not to say I'm not flawed at all, but to say, because I have a career, because, I was blessed to graduate college early. There's certain things that, God has just graciously blessed me. And it's like, well, you're going to buy a house, and what about when you get married? I'm like, well, it could be his house too. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it either becomes our house, or we rent this house out. It's still a house. It's an investment. We rent this house out. We go in a new house. It's just a house. It's all it is an investment. I'm not tied to the house in any form or fashion. It's an investment, but this sort of mindset I don't know, it's like you have to be this damsel in distress or something. I don't know. And so I really struggle with that. And I was told, it was basically like, because I actually had to ask a friend, like, can you help me, a male friend, like, can you help really break this down for me? Because it's almost like I have to put my life on hold or something. What's going on? And he was like, no, it's basically like, if the man is not as confident enough in who he is, then you're a mirror to him of what he's not. And so that's that's the history that you've fallen into. And I'm like, well, that's really awful. But yeah, so I would just say to cheer on and to celebrate those things and in those victories, and being independent does not mean that that we don't still want to be in a relationship or feel as though, every time there's lots of times I'm like, man, it would be nice if I had somebody around. There's still a dependency. There's still a dependency. There's still a desire. There's still a balance that we provide for each other. There's still strengths that we will have as Black women, and strengths that you will have as Black men, and weaknesses that we will have as women, and weaknesses that you will have as men. But we can really support and balance each other out if we will let each other do so. And so to not look at accomplishments or successes or achievements or accolades as, oh, she don't think she need a man. Clearly she don't think she need a man. It's like, no. It's just, I'm still single. So I'm not gonna put my whole life on hold waiting, I hope to get married one day, but I'm not gonna put my whole life on hold until that happens. And so, yeah, just celebrating those successes and not making it feel as though there's something wrong with seeking for success and attaining it, so that would be kind of one thing for me, I'd say.
Stephen.
That was a mic drop. Like,
right.
Yeah, I don't know how you follow that. That was on point.
She said that.
A lot of people have been spitting so much truth. So I just want to thank Cassie, first of all, because this group is so encouraging to me. And I feel like we don't see this. Like, I don't see this, like, young, successful. Actually, I was in DC for a bit, and that was my first time really being around young, successful Black people that have a goal, that have a mission. And I just feel like we have to get this out, because someone said lack of knowledge is power. Like, if we can get this in different groups, then we can start some sort of movement. Like, I just feel as a race, as a culture, we're gonna grow so big, because I don't know, I can just speak for myself, but like, this is so encouraging. Like, I feel like I want to go not only get fitness, but I want to be better at my job. This is like so motivating in so many ways.
Thank you. That means a lot. I mean, that's why I don't take time away from someone answering, but I started this because of how passionate I was feeling about it with everything that was going on. And I created it just so we can have conversations like this with each other if we're not, especially if we're not surrounded by people that look at us or understand what we're going through on it. But with that being said, though, I would try to answer the question about what like.
I'll go.
Okay.
So I have a little different perspective. So I grew up in a single mother household, right? Like J. Cole said, typical Black American dad story, right? He wasn't enough for the responsibility. But in that household, I grew up. I have a twin sister, right? Like I said, she's a Air Force officer. She's in pilot training right now, and we were raised that there are no double standards. I mean, there's chivalry isn't dead, but there are no double standards, right? So exactly what Crystal was saying. If you want it, go get it. So my mindset is a little different, right? My mom, like I'm sitting on her porch right now that we did like a month ago, not even like 3 weeks ago, right? We did that, but this is her house. You know what I mean? So what it looks like seeing a successful Black woman, to me, I'm not intimidated, right? It's like, okay, you got what you needed to get. Now, from a Black male's perspective, I've been told it's not your time, King, right? So you're dealing with women and it doesn't work out. Oh, it's just not your time, King. They're not ready. They're not ready for you. I say that to say for my Black women, it's exactly the same thing. The difference is for us, we can be more patient because our biological clock isn't ticking. But I never want to see a Black woman settle because of that, right? It's something I will never be able to understand or never be able to experience. The thoughts and the fear and the angst that y'all go through every year that you get older, every year you're not in a relationship. Because we as Black men can't get our stuff together to be the person that y'all need us to be. I say we have to look ourselves in the mirror because I think Krista, you might have said it before, the understanding of what each other goes through, right? What does a Black woman go through in America? What does a Black man go through in America? Because seeing a reflection of what we aren't is true. Why? Because America has put it in our face that you have to be this to be a successful Black man. So if we're not achieving those said goals that we see everywhere, we're not an athlete, we're not a rapper, we're not in social media, whatever it is, then we're trying to be entrepreneurs, right? Because not a lot of us, but some Black men are, I'm an entrepreneur, cool. How long does that last, right? And women, I say, stay true to your values. Men, we have to step it up and understand what a Black woman goes through, because I always say Black women's the strongest. We all say it, but a lot of it is education. While we were getting whipped, they were raising the children. They had to give birth to the children that got whipped. They had to give birth to children knowing that they were going to be enslaved, potentially killed, right? So Black women have always held down the household. They've always put up with our stuff. No matter what we went through, they've always been there. So for us to not understand that without an understanding of our history, not just from a Black male's perspective and how we've been portrayed and what we're supposed to look like, or how the opposite side of that is how we're demonized. I think a lot of it has to do with an understanding and the willing to communicate and get to a point to where you understand how to communicate, not just on a love language side, but how do you a lot of it is self-internal reflection. How do I communicate? How do I need to communicate? Because if you don't understand yourself, how can you expect anybody else to understand you, right? If I don't know how I need you to talk to me, I can't express to you how I need you to talk to me. So for me, it's not really, sorry, Cassie, it's not really what a female can do. It's more of what we need to do. And that it's gain a better understanding from a historical perspective about how we've been portrayed in the lessons we're taught, in the environment that we're facing in the real world, which is now being plastered, right? Black men died, Black women died. Like, we're not just talking about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor was shot. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a focus on one thing, it's Black as a whole. So for me, I personally support, and support's a subjective term, but it's not a degrading thing, because as a Black male, every day in the world, even though I'm an incel, we're faced with negativity. We're faced with every time I see a cop, and I'm well-spoken, I grew up relatively high school years in the suburbs, I know what to do when a cop pulls me over. There's no reason I should feel nervous, and my heart my heart rate increases when a cop gets behind me. When nothing's wrong. And that's something I deal with, right? But a Black female has to deal with me dealing with that, right? So until we get that mindset and that understanding of what the other person goes through and can support that person through what they're going through, not saying it doesn't have to be, it's going to be okay, but it doesn't have to be tough love either. But until you can understand how you communicate, I feel like communication is the root of all evil, it's the root of all misunderstandings. Everything is communication to me. So support and communication, and patience, I guess, because we're dealing with the world, and then the successful Black woman, right? So,
Man, at the end you said
keep dropping mics, okay? You know, it's fine.
Right? You like read what a lot of the Black men said in the previous discussions, the patience and the communication and okay. I just want to say one thing, and then Courtney, you can totally take after this. I just want to say, Black men, you do not have to be like have your straight, have all this stuff straight. Like that's what gets pushed to the Black community. We just want a man of good character, and the issue is every time we run into a man of good character, he's focused on business sometimes. You know,
mm-hmm.
It's like when there's men that might, you know, still be growing, they're the ones that might be focused on you, but you're looking at character, not necessarily the established man with money. So just want to encourage you guys, if you have good character, like, hey, we want you. But okay, Courtney.
But honestly, she has a point, because, you know, my ex was younger than me, and he was up and coming. Not really up and coming, I'm not gonna lie, but no shade.
Nice. All the shade.
You know, he was, you know, aspiring to possibly become something, and that stuff didn't matter to me. You know, like the way he treated me was more important than, you know, his job status, because at that time I was already in my field and he was still in university. So it was like, you know, that stuff doesn't bother us. It's really how we are treated, because, you know, Dakota kind of touched on it, but at the same time, it's like, you know, yes, we were the women who birthed our children or in slavery, like we birthed our kids, and, you know, they had to be, but then we also had to know that our kids died. Our kids got malnourished because we had to take care of the slave owners' wives' kids. You know, we had to nourish them. We were always put last. I will forever and truly wholeheartedly believe that we as Black females are the most ridiculed, the most hated on, slept on people in America, period. But yet we always put other people first. I don't know if that's just an internal thing to try and show our worth or value, or if it's just naturally instilled in us, or some, I mean, let me not speak for other people, but I just think that us as Black females, it's important to see our Black males uplift all of us, not just the lighter complected females, not people outside of our race, because you look on social media and you have, prime example, Kardashians, you know, people who, you know, aren't of our descent, they have plastic surgery, they got lips, they got this, all of our natural features are glorified without being Black. And I think that's the biggest thing that we kind of struggle with is, you know, you have this intellectual Black female who has this, who has that, but yet you prefer this. You can have a preference, which is great, but don't belittle your Black brothers and sisters whenever you're doing that. So Dakota, you kind of mentioned that too, you know, with not being attracted to that Black male. That's fine, because I've dated inside my race and outside my race. When I date outside my race, it's, oh, well, she must not love herself enough because she's not dating a white boy.
Mm.
So what are you? Because you're dating white girls, you know? That there's always a double narrative, and it's not fair that us as a female always gets the slap in the face. But Black males can do it, and it's okay. But once a Black girl does it, it's she don't love herself, or oh, so she has to go get a white man because the Black dudes wasn't acting right. That it doesn't matter, because white males have treated me bad, Black males have treated me bad. It's your character, and that's what matters. And I just think it's important that, you know, we get uplifted, because no one else is doing it but us as Black females. You see our girls, hey sis, you looking good? Okay, purple hair popping. Okay, Havana twist, or you know what? I don't know what those are, Ayana, but they're cute. Whole lieutenant over there, you know, Cassie, you know, what's up? You got a whole house. Okay, Miss Crystal, we uplift each other, but it can't always just be us because we get tired. We're exhausted. I remember I was literally moving out of my apartment when Houston put on our protests. And I was so overwhelmed with emotions when I went out there to go protest, just the fact that it's 2020. I've seen this in history books, yet I'm still here marching saying Black Lives Matter. Why? Then to like have people come at you and feel like you're and just for being this goddess that we are, you know, it's disheartening that to only uplift yourself or to have your fellow sisters who understand you uplift you. Where, you know, like I said, you go back to those women who aren't of our descent, get glorified left and right, up and down. It's frustrating. I think that's the biggest thing that we need is just our Black counterparts in male figures to be like, you know, if you're not my preference, that's fine, but you still bad, sis. Like, do you still popping? Do you? It's just important to know that we have each other's backs. We're here for one another, whether it's your preference or not, whether you're interested in them or not, on a friendship level. You know, I'm proud of my guy friends who are males who are doing the thing. You know, they're proud of me. We've constantly uplift one another, text each other. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, you're strong. You're this, you're that, and the other. Sitting scriptures, Bible verses, uplifting and powerful words to let them know that they are not only seen, but they're valued. I think words are so important to me. Actions follow because, you know, being able to pick up your phone and text somebody, that's an action. But the words is very important to let them know that you're seen, that you're not just a figure of being this glorified body. You know, you're still a person. Your soul is inside and it needs that uplifting empowerment from the people around you. And I think it's important that we need to pour into one another because there's times when I can't pour into people and the overflow of others can fill me up. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, nothing left. No.
That's my take on it.
Man, thank you. Everything she said, I've been back. Anyone else next? I know it's 7:30 now, but if you want to keep going, we'll keep going, but we'll definitely cut it off at 8 my time, or we can cut it off now.
Yeah, I gotta go, but I just want to say this has been amazing. I cannot remember the last time I talked to this many people of color and like just felt like I belong. I think that is so refreshing. That is so encouraging. And I think the last piece related to this topic before I scoot out of here is that something this isn't even directed towards like our male counterparts, but just everyone is that, and I can only speak for me and like my experiences, but something that has been happening more recently is I'm working in a career field where I'm working with a lot of pilots, and recently I've had interactions with some Black pilots lately, and they've all been men. But they look at me, and when I tell them about my story, I had a pilot slot and I turned it down, and I get looked at like, how could you let down your people like that? How could you not represent, like they need you, little girls need to look like you, need to know that they're represented. As if I don't know that. But you know, but who are you to tell me what my calling is? Like we're not even gonna get into that, but I think that's like a universal thing of just being supported for who you are and not trying to project a figure of what you think I'm supposed to be or anybody else. I think that's something that we can all like rest on. And with that, I gotta go. But this was awesome, and I really hope that we can do this again. Thank you guys so much. This is awesome.
Definitely. See you later. I'll send out emails.
Yeah. Go Intel.
Hey.
I got to take off too. It was great speaking with you guys. Hearing everybody's story. It definitely, like she said, is a blessing. Just have everyone come together. And yeah, hopefully maybe we can do this again sometime. So you guys have a good night, and I'll catch up with you later.
Sir.
All right.
Take care.
I got to take off as well.
Same.
Okay.
I feel like everyone's gonna take off. So
Man, I'm trying to connect with y'all though. Other
chat room. Okay.
ain't nobody post their Instagram. I was the only one.
Right.
I'm gonna put it in Instagram group I just didn't want to do it if people didn't want, you know, all that out there. But I can put us in an Instagram group. I'm also creating a Facebook page now by demand. So that's gonna come out soon, and y'all will be able to speak with each other. Hopefully, by the end of this weekend, it'll be established.
I just put
Oh,
mine.
bet.
Cassie, you know I have 2 pages, so.
Girl, and
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I can give it to you, but I haven't even, like, I ain't been on it forever.
I haven't been on it forever.
Like, but you can have it.
You can have it.
Like,
All right.
create a new one is what I really
Yeah, Cassie, if you could, like, just maybe ask people if they were okay with it and just sending it out to people on the email distro, like, hey, if you're okay with the information being shared, we can just pass it to you, and then you can just send the list to whoever or to the group if that's okay.
Yeah, I could do that.
Sorry to add more work to you.
I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out because so thank you, everybody. I enjoyed the conversation. This will happen again, you know, with different people, and and thank you for your patience at the beginning. Because lastly, please email me ASAP if you do not want everything recorded. If there's anything you said that you want deleted, let me know and I will delete it. But all right, so that is it from me.
Oh wait, should I stop recording now? What do I do?
Oh yeah.
Stop recording. Okay.